Outlander Untold are untold stories that we created for fans that wouldn't necessarily fit into the main filming. Every year we've just had the most fun with these little extra bits that are just such fun insights into the nooks and crannies of the stories. And this season was unconventional. It was shorter than we expected. It turned out way better than one would imagine it would when you find out partway in the season you're going to shorten your episodes. This year we're doing 2 animated Untolds.
When we started talking about animation, it really stuck on the wall. And every time we talked about it, it got more and more exciting. And then once we started to dig into what the stories would be, then it just bloomed and blossomed.
And everyone goes, wait a second.
Yeah.
Actually, that's amazing. It's brilliant.
We were able to get Katrina and Sam and Sophie and Richard to voice them because the time that would take would be a lot less than prepping and shooting and being fitted for costumes and going to a location. We were able to look in the scenes in the books and go, okay, let's pull this one. This one's magical.
I really like the shared theme that these 2 untold stories have of parenting.
Granny, Granda, I can swim! I can swim!
That's wonderful, darling.
Silky Scar, which was contributed to by Evan McGahey, was another scene from the book, but in the book it's Jamie and Brianna, and we changed it to Claire. That was the story about the Silkies, which are seals that shed their skin and walk onto land as humans. And it was a great way to use that fairy tale or that folklore in a way that was visual. We usually hear those stories, but now we actually get to see them.
Some of these dreams are reveries of the kids. So what Juan decided as art director for this was to have a different type of style for the real world, and what we call mundo onírico, this magic world of the past, and I think it's super interesting.
La idea que teníamos con Diego en un principio, que fue bastante, fue un desafío tratar de encontrar 2 técnicas que cuenten de la misma manera, tanto nosotros lo llamamos mundo real del mundo onírico.
So there's this fantasy element that we haven't seen in Outlander, and through animation we can bring that to life. Our challenge here was to take all the emotional weight of the series and these characters into an animated form.
We are representing Jamie, Claire, Brianna, Roger, and the kids, but it's not supposed to be them exactly. And it was interesting to try to find a style and a look that we landed on that said, oh, that's Jamie, that's Claire, but it's not Katrina and Sam. It's interesting how just by different lighting and shading, just as in a normal person that you're photographing, their looks can change and the animation changes, which is really cool.
Well, you are cleaner. I'll admit that much.
I think my favorite part of this process is seeing how animation works. There's so much you can do, and picking the animated style I thought was really fascinating.
El estilo que nosotros tratamos de manejar también fue muy acompañado de lo que son los tiempos de producción. El estilo es una combinación de varias técnicas, el cel animation, motion graphics. Tenemos composición dentro de lo que es el after.
We wanted to make sure that the style lended itself to emotion and not just action. And next thing you know, we have very expressive eyes, so you get the feeling of what the character is going through.
For the close-up shots, we would use traditional animation on the mouth and the eyes to bring that emotion to the character. We're quite happy with the whole process, and it's a great collaboration, and you can feel that the team has a passion for the project.
I thought that was particularly clever in that it kind of gets across the idea that this is one of the functions of visual storytelling, is to implant an actual memory.
Jem, come over here and sit down. Are you familiar with the return of the vampire?
The creature feature with Roger and Brianna, they're talking about how are we going to share this thing that we think is important. You know, they're passing on lore because that's what you do.
Creature feature is a story from Breath of Snow and Ashes. You know, Roger talks about when he was younger, and he and his adoptive father, the Reverend, used to kind of go to the movies, and it was such a special thing for him. And Nick Hornung, who contributed to this one, was able to add to it all of these elements that lend itself to animation. The shadow play on the wall and the creatures come to life.
Roger and Brianna, well, they're facing a very scary situation. They are separated, you know, so they are kind of rebuilding, you might say, from the rubble. And the stories are taken pretty much straight from the book, though amended and added to make it a more cohesive small capsule story.
Animation really lended itself to both of these stories. You know, they're really cinematic, and at the end of the day, we could never have done these live action.
It's such a cool departure. Also, I think really emblematic of how this season was unconventional. For me, it's just this ties a little bow on this amazing season.
Almost as good as being at the pictures, eh?
All we need now is the popcorn.